And Mike, I'd love your opinion on this eventually. By the way, did you just wake up? You
For me?
Yeah.
I've been working all day. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. You look a little drained.
Yeah, I'm okay. It's hot in here, so yeah.
I
wasn't the ayahuasca you took earlier,
right?
No, I'm just joking.
You got to cut back, man. The which is no fabric container can be functionable in any sort of vacuum. Cannot happen. It would go as tight as a snare drum and be unusable.
One of the things that seem to be, like the Pettit guy, right? That guy, he talks about they destroyed the technology to go back to the moon.
Oh, yeah. That guy's a terrible rep. Terrible. So
I'm surprised he's not like wearing cement galoshes or something by now. He is awful for NASA.
He doesn't sound like he's confident in the slightest. He has no conviction in his voice, and it's almost like they don't tell him anything. Like, they just like, okay, here's what you have to work off of. It's like, okay,
make it up as you go.
He was hemming and hawing when he was saying it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a first sign of either a liar or somebody who really is not, who's in the dark. And
I don't think he's clever enough to lie. I really think he's honestly in the dark. They just hired him. It's like, okay, will you say anything we put on this piece of paper? Yes, I will.
Right. There is a spiritual overtone to strongly protect the Copernican model at all costs. It is a religious overtone to throw out anything that would go against that model or narrative. Let me read you what we're talking about. Why don't these physicists come out with the truth? Mr. Kaku said, if one day God came down from above and says, look, these two great theories, relativity and quantum theory, are wrong, what would I say? First, I would say, oh my God, all my published works are wrong. I mean, I would have to look for another job. End quote. Yeah. What people don't realize, globe earthers don't realize, is that if somebody in the physics field or a university did come out and say, hey, the Earth might be flat. We did some tests, and seriously, we're not finding a curvature rate here. And the sun and moon might be this, and this might be that. And this whole theory of relativity and quantum physics is totally just theories. Neither one mesh with each other. They can't make a match, okay? But they're two theories that people believe that are true. Even Lawrence Krauss, he gets on there and says, well, the creation account, that's the biggest mystery of science. But see, there was nothing. And then there's these virtual particles. So now we have virtual particles. We have to make up another particle. Like Mark said, they have to make up dark matter, dark energy. They just start making stuff up. And then Lawrence says, but then gravity gets involved. Now, and wait a minute. Okay, so where did gravity come from? Because you need an object of mass. And then he says, once the gravity gets involved, these particles go into the negative and a positive, and boom, we have a galaxy full of stuff. And then he goes on to say, I know it's the ultimate free lunch. See, that's their science. They just want us to believe what they tell us based on make-believe and just believe them. That's what Lawrence Krauss said. It's the ultimate free lunch. And we're not giving Lawrence Krauss a free lunch. We're not giving him peanut butter and jelly sandwiches even. What you say, Lawrence, is not even making sense. And so for anybody in the field to come out and publish something truthful, not only will they get massive resistance from their peers, but if you look at the amount of Globe Earth comments, the rudeness, the nastiness that Mark and I get and other flat earthers get, you can see right away that this person, this physicist, this university professor would be eaten alive and his life completely destroyed. So you're asked, he has to ask himself the question, am I ready to throw away all my livelihood? All right, possibly have the government get involved, and if my message is too big for them and possibly I disappear, is it worth my family being in danger? Is it really worth it? Because these people will stop at nothing to protect their model. And the comments on our channels are just a small amount of evidence of this mindset mentality. of what happens when you mention something that goes against their chosen narrative.
So you basically what you're saying here is that people should immediately say, hey, if there's something into this, instead of overreacting, they should actually show the science and prove what you're saying, right, is wrong.
They don't.
That's the attitude.
Don't need the science. That's the whole. See, here's the thing: the global earthers will come on and say, "Well, we have science, or we have logic, we have this, we have that." But the reality is, they don't even need it because they'll believe Lawrence Krauss. Something came from nothing. You can have a glass of nothing one day and wake up the next morning, it's full of beer. You know, that's what they believe, and they're happy with that. They don't need science. They don't need evidence. They don't need proof. They're brainwashed. It's a religion. It's a faith-based religion, no different than any other faith-based religion out there. Mark, you have something to say?
No, absolutely right. It is they have taken science, or the reason why they call it scientism. They have taken the road of religion. In fact, they learned from, they decided they were going to become their own religion before it was over. They're just sneakier about it. And I get it, because remember, the credibility is built into the basics, which is like, okay, fine. You want to tell me the boiling temperature of water at sea level? Fine. When paper burns, yeah, I get that. But but everything else, it's like, no, see, we were right about these other things. So we're fine there. And again, Neil deGrasse Tyson's probably one of the most arrogant comments I've ever heard outside of Kanye West, which is science is true whether or not you believe in it. It's staggering how bloated that statement is, because it's
right. That basically stating that science is just one single thing and nobody can disagree with it.
Yeah.
Even though the idea is that you ask questions and you go after the models, you try to debunk it or prove them wrong and make some sort of progress, right? That way, like you cannot make such a. He makes that statement. That's what he's saying. He's been doing that. He seems to be a propagandist.
Oh,
the only time I tried to say something about it, I got attacked on Facebook by a guy who's my friend. He just said, well, it was not an attack. He basically said, no, you're wrong about him. He's legit. I'm a big fan. And I tried to see what kind of science Neil deGrasse Tyson was doing, if he was an experimental scientist, if he made any gadgets like Tesla or something like that. But it was all, I found a paper that was published in the Council of Foreign Relations, which was basically a political paper about how they should put more money into NASA so they could because any money you put into NASA becomes all these amazing technologies that help the entire world. Right. He even says in the paper that the moon missions and all these other missions help to develop better digital imaging.
Well, that part was probably true, because they had to do a lot of photography. Well, initially it started out as just straight up photography editing, and then it got into digital imaging.
Wouldn't surprise me if NASA wasn't responsible for the special effects we now enjoy today too.
Oh yeah. I mean, hell, if you believe the stories, if it goes back to Stanley Kubrick, who spent 5 years researching, how to fake space on camera, and then turned his project basically into 2001: A Space Odyssey. That film has aged beautifully, and it spawned pretty much every one of the major science fiction houses. After that, everybody else based their stuff on that. Won Best Picture, I think, was it Best Picture? I think it was.
Anthropologists take very seriously different indigenous cosmologies from the present and from the past. And as you would know, many of them do not conform with the kind of heliocentric model, even though if you go to the Dalai Lama, as one flat earth researcher did, his people, and ask, why is it that you believe in the flat earth before? How is it now? He would say, well, science proves us wrong. If we're driving towards this paradigm shift, then how do we introduce this to an audience of people who are open-minded to alternative views of the world? And how can I do that? That's what I'm trying to do by talking to people and let them explain themselves. And because the subject is very marginalized, the people are they're attacked all the time. The debates are not real debates.
Yeah.
And this is just it's not right. It's not correct. It's not how an anthropologist would do it. We would hear every position, and present them as they are. Actually, even going through it with people, our presentation, saying, "Is this how you want to be presented?" And then, because that's an ethical thing that we're supposed to do. That's the ethical way of doing anthropology, ethnographic anthropology, which is not social biology anthropology, and is not necessarily archaeology. Right? Is a different kind of thing. Is about cultures and movements, social movements, and so on.